Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Keidron Koger, and this is episode number 16 of Reoccurring Thoughts. I have been away for a while. Last week I took a week off for the 4th of July, and I know you guys missed me, of course, but I'm back again with another NBA another NBA podcast here, just talking about what's happened so far in the past week of free agency since I've been away. And of course, I've got my good friend, Mr. Marshall Elson, back with me again on this episode. Mr. Elson, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm glad to be back, and we've got a lot to cover. So much happened, NBA free agency. That one Sunday evening where there was, what seemed like 25 signings in 2 hours. It got pretty hectic. But I'm excited to review it all, and let's go.
Right, and it was a crazy week last week. He's texting me at 1 o'clock in the morning, letting me know where Kawhi is going. I'm like, oh my gosh, what just happened? But without further ado, we're gonna start off with our top 15 that we gave last time in the last episode that we had, where we predicted where they were going, and we're gonna talk about how our predictions went and just describe in one word what we felt, how their moves went. And to start off, we're going to save the best for last, but to start off, we're going to go with Kemba. What was your reaction to Kemba, or your one-word description for Kemba, Marshall?
Yeah, so I tried to make these one-word descriptions fun. I mean, some of them are boring, but this one I went with a cherry. And the reason I said cherry is because when I go to get an ICEE, I usually want a Coke ICEE. I mean, that's what my favorite flavor of ICEE is. I want a Coke ICEE, and sometimes the Coke machine's not working, the Coke ICEE machine, so I have to settle for cherry. And Kyrie Irving is the Coke ICEE to me. I think he's better. But there are times where I get the cherry ICEE and I taste it, and I'm like, oh, you know what? This was actually better than Coke today. I'm actually glad it was cherry today. And I think that's what could happen with Kemba Walker. The Celtics could realize, wow, Kyrie we thought was better, but this actually is better for our team. This actually works out better. And he could really do well. What was your word for him?
So you just said that word better 3 times, and that's what I wrote down for Kemba. I thought the move was better for him and better for Boston, simply because in my opinion, this past year, I thought Kemba was better than Kyrie, and I think he's a better fit for Boston as well. We've already had this debate off podcast, but I just talked about how I think Kemba, in my opinion, right now in the league at this point in time, not overall, over his career, but right now he is a better point guard than Kyrie. Looking at their numbers, they match up really pretty evenly. Both of them average 20 plus points per game. Great facilitators. I believe they're great teammates, even though some people would disagree about Kyrie. But yes, I think the word I would use to describe it was better for Kemba.
That makes sense. What was your word for Klay Thompson? Re-signing with the Warriors.
The Klay Thompson word I have. The word for Klay Thompson that I have is typical. It was kind of expected for him to re-sign. It was just a matter of when. So not really much to describe on that one. How about you?
My word for Klay Thompson is wallet. Everywhere I go, I have to have my wallet, or else I'm going to feel paranoid that it's lost.
That makes
sense.
And
I think the Warriors without Klay Thompson, they would just be missing something at all times and constantly be worried. He does so much for them defensively, and he's such a good second scoring option. Offensively, you kind of have to have him wherever you go. So I thought wallet was my word for him.
Gotcha, and that makes sense. And he made a lot of money in his wallet from that deal. I've been seeing a lot of people talk about how it was actually a bad deal for the Warriors to give him that much money coming off an ACL tear. So it's kind of shocking to hear that. But the next guy we've got on the list is Jimmy. What do you have for Jimmy, Marshall?
My word for Jimmy Butler is withdrawal. And the reason why I said that is because it reminded me of a kid in high school who is on a good team, but he withdraws to go to another school so he can get more playing time or more shots or more of a lead role.
Right.
And that's what I felt like he did. He wants to go to the Heat and be the man. And so that was my word for him. What did you have?
That's a good word right there, withdrawal. I wouldn't even have thought about that one, but my word was confusing. Just like the way you described it, he was on a better team. If your goal is to win, why would you go to a team that's worse? And then they trade away Hassan Whiteside. So it's all confusing to me. So obviously Jimmy wants to be the centerpiece, and now in Miami with Dwayne Wade gone, you got to follow that legacy, and he's going to be the centerpiece. So confusing was my word. So I don't know what he was doing. I don't know what he wanted. Maybe the Sixers just wanted value out of him. Who knows? But they did get Josh Richardson out of him, so I thought it was a good trade on the Sixers' part. So the next guy, I think it's your turn, Marshall. Who we got next?
Next, we have Tobias Harris. And what was your word for him?
Tobias Harris, another one that was, in my mind, typical, expected. I didn't see him leaving for, where would he go, really? He's in a great situation where he's really, I would say he's the number 2 in Philly. And that's arguably up for question with Ben Simmons, but he was my expected / typical pick for the Sixers. So how about you for him?
So for him, I put iPod. And the reason why I put iPod is because, people aren't really using them much anymore. But if you did use it, it could play every genre you want: country, hip hop, alternative, whatever you want it to play. And Tobias Harris can do that. He can dribble well. He can defend well. He can shoot well. He can post up. I mean, he can do a lot of things. The problem is he's not the new and improved version. He's not a Kevin Durant. He's not even a Jimmy Butler, really. So he's kind of an old school player, and that's why I put iPod, but he can do everything. So it was a fine signing to me.
Do you think,
you go ahead.
Do you think he's singing right now since he's an iPod? Like, what do you think he's singing right now?
I have no idea. I just tried to make these names silly so that it would be somewhat entertaining.
He's like, bring me the money.
Right. Oh, he's probably celebrating right now with all that money. But what word did you put for Chris Middleton?
Middleton, another expected guy. I think I expected. That was the word I used, is expected for him. I know my words are so bland, forgive me, but his was expected to stay with the Bucks. He's with a guy that he doesn't necessarily have to be the lead role. He can just play he can play Robin to Batman, who is Giannis. So it's a good spot for him to just sit there and stay still and know that he's good. Good Bible reference right there. So.
Yes, sir.
How about you?
My word's boring as well, but I just put necessary. I mean, you just kind of had to do it. He's necessary for what your team does. He's necessary for Giannis. He's got to be there. He's got to be a Buck, and I see why they did it.
I'm glad you corrected yourself on Giannis, because a lot of people have been coming at my neck about saying Giannis. So I didn't want anybody to come at me crazy. So yes, his name is Giannis. But good job, Marshall. I like that analysis. He is necessary to what they do. So the next guy we have on the list is Nikola Vucevic. What did you have for him?
I put appeasing. And the reason why I put appeasing is because I felt like the signing was just to appease their fans. He's not going to take you to the title, but at the same time, Orlando has really improved his career, and they've kind of watched him grow. And so why send him off somewhere else when you have a chance to sign him? And so they just kind of appeased their fans by, giving him the money. So yeah. I respected it. What did you think? And
that makes sense. I like that word, and appease is a really good word. I use strong. And the reason I used strong was because he didn't really necessarily try to look for anywhere else, or not that we know of. I thought it was a strong move by him to stay home and be there with the people that built him. So I thought it was a strong move on his part, in my opinion. So that was my take on that one.
All right, the next guy is Malcolm Brogdon. What was your word for him?
My word for Malcolm Brogdon was smart. I thought him going to be with Victor Oladipo, Miles Turner, and who's the guy I'm forgetting? I know you corrected me the other day on this one. Who am I forgetting?
Sabonis, Oladipo.
Yeah, Oladipo and Sabonis. Those guys, I mean, he just adds another piece to what was missing on a playoff team, really. How far will they go? That's a great question, but I think it was a smart move by him. So how about you?
Yeah, my word was valuable. And I think it's a two-part answer. He's going to be very valuable to the Pacers this year because he can play off of Oladipo so well. Or at least I think he will. And then another thing is that we're going to see this year just how valuable he was to the Bucks, because I don't think the Bucks are going to have as good of a season as they had last year because they lost him. Yeah. And we're going to really get to see his value. Right. So that was my word for that. The next is J.J. Redick. He signed with the Pelicans. And my word for that was puzzle. I referenced it in the last podcast, but the Hawks have done a good job of getting different puzzle pieces that can fit together, and I think that J.J. Redick was the puzzle piece the Pelicans were missing. They didn't have a guy that could come off screens and hit threes from deep and be a fearless three-point shooter, and that's exactly what J.J. Redick is. So he's the puzzle piece they needed. What was your word for him?
My word was exactly the word you just said, needed. I said I believe that J.J. Redick was, like you said, a puzzle piece that was missing because he is a piece that they don't have in an offensive guy. They've got great defensive players. They've got athletic guys. They've got long players, but they don't have a guy that can just score. Drew Holiday is not necessarily a scorer anymore as he was back in Philadelphia, but he is really more of a defender now. So he can put it on the floor and score, but not as good as this guy. So JJ was a much-needed piece. How about your guy, DeMarcus Cousins? What about him?
DeMarcus Cousins. My word for DeMarcus Cousins was ticket, and I mean that as in lottery ticket, because it doesn't cost. I don't buy these. I've never bought one, but it doesn't cost too much for one lottery ticket. But there's a chance that it gets you millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, that they took a chance on a cheap contract with DeMarcus Cousins, and it could turn out that he's the difference in them winning a title. I mean, he could be incredible. It's a big risk as far as whether he'll do well or not, but it's not a big risk financially. So I liked it. What'd you think?
I thought I agree with your take. It was a very small risk, and we're going to talk about it more later. But I thought his signing was sad. I thought it was sad, like with Michael Jordan crying emoji, or the meme. I thought
you didn't have to bring him into this.
He's the second GOAT, Elson. We'll have another discussion on that one later, but
that's gonna need a whole episode.
But I think the signing was sad with the Michael Jordan face crying Hall of Fame speech. But and the reason I think it's sad is because, for one, DeMarcus Cousins a few years ago was having his best season ever. Like he is a big man that is a lost art in the game. He's a true big man. I mean, yeah, you could say Embiid's a true big man, but Embiid can shoot. DeMarcus can shoot a little bit, but he's a true big man, and that's something that the game's missing. So I thought it was sad because he's still in his prime. I believe DeMarcus Cousins is still in his prime. So I think it was a good signing for the Lakers, but overall I thought it was sad for him. So the next guy we got is Al Horford, and I'm going to start with this one. I thought it was a lateral. I think with Kemba, I thought Boston was going to be the same as the Sixers. They're going to be in the same position as the Sixers are. So I thought it was a lateral move. How about you?
I use the word double with Al Horford, and what I mean by that is that it's a double meaning. For one, it's going to really help the Sixers because he's a great player. But it also is going to keep Embiid from having to face his toughest task, which was to score and try and do well against Al Horford. He always struggles against Al Horford, and so rather than trying to keep going at him, they just signed him. Right. And so that has a kind of a double meaning, and so that was my word there.
Yeah, that's a good word.
Next we have Julius Randle, and I'll start with this one. I put underappreciated. You see, and I referenced that he was similar to Zion in the mock draft podcast, but people are making fun, saying, Zion is just a Julius Randle with hops. I think Inez Kander said that, but I just feel like no one truly is giving Julius Randle the credit he deserves. He's a really good player, and people don't like guarding him because he's so strong and powerful, and he's got a decent touch around the rim, and he's fearless. He really is. So I thought it was an underappreciated signing, and I'm hoping he gets the attention that he deserves in New York. What'd you think?
And I think he will, honestly. I think Enes Kanter was just upset that New York traded him away for nothing, but that's okay. I think he's just bitter.
I love Enes Kanter, but that's a possibility. Well, what was your word for him?
My word was great, and not because I'm a Knicks fan, of course, but I think it was a great signing for the Knicks because it gave you a guy that can actually be a leader on the team, and I think he's ready to be by himself. I mean, he was playing behind Anthony Davis, and he was still putting up numbers. So I think he can do it.
Right.
I think he's going to be a great pickup for the Knicks. So that was my word. D'Angelo Russell, and this is the last guy we'll talk about before we get into the other three that we missed. And my word for D'Angelo Russell was trade. I think the Warriors are going to use him as a trade piece later on. I don't see him sticking around. So that was my word, is trade. How about you?
Yeah, That's a good word, and my word was shocking, but in parentheses, but it shouldn't have been. I was shocked when I saw he's going to the Warriors, but I should not have been shocked because that was such a smart move. Just have KD sign, do the sign and trade, and that way you have D'Angelo Russell, who can be a trade piece, or he could develop under Steve Kerr and turn out to be a great guard of the future in the new arena, the Chase Center out there in San Francisco.
Gotcha.
So that was my word. Shocking, but it really shouldn't have been. Let's see. What's our next topic here? Which LA team do you think will be better?
In my opinion, and I think the Lakers are going to be better. Top to bottom, honestly, with the Lakers, they've got Boogie, like we talk about DeMarcus Cousins. They've got Boogie, they've got LeBron, obviously, and yesterday it came out that he's going to play point guard. They've got Anthony Davis. They got Kyle Kuzma, who they've kept in the trade. They've got Quinn Cook, who they stole from the Warriors. They may get Iguodala. And I mean, it's a good top-to-bottom squad. They've got JaVale McGee. They've also got Rondo back. And Avery Bradley, who they signed yesterday. So this is a good squad that I see top to bottom, a good defensive team, a good offensive team. So top to bottom, I think they're the better LA team or the best LA team. How about you?
Well, I think I will probably be rooting for the Lakers to win. I want to see LeBron and Anthony Davis do well. I think it would be good for the league to have the Lakers be extremely relevant again in the finals and possibly win a title. But I have to say that on paper right now, the Clippers are the better team. Kawhi Leonard just won the title last year, and LeBron missed the playoffs. Paul George is an excellent defender, and you already have Montrezl Harrell. You've already got Patrick Beverly. That's a really stout defensive lineup. So I'm going to go with the Clippers because defense wins championships, and so I'm going with that.
So we talked about this earlier today, Marshall, and we talked about I believe that Rondo was a better player than Patrick Beverly simply because what can Patrick Beverly give you on the offensive end? At least Rondo can at least put it on the floor and give you a few layups tonight. Patrick Beverly's just going to trip your guy up and get in his head. That's it. I mean, on defense, for me.
Right. Well, now that you've opened that can of worms, Rajon Rondo, when you watch him play, it almost seems like he's out there hunting for assist numbers. And so I wouldn't really say, he's just – and he used to be on the Celtics and stuff, and I like his game, but I wouldn't say he just completely brings their offense up a notch. I think it's more of just – he can make a few passes here and there. He'll take care of the ball, but he's not necessarily going to be a scorer that you need. Whereas Patrick Beverly, what he brings on the defensive end is incredible. I mean, you saw that they were able to beat the Warriors with KD 2 games in the playoffs, and partly, that's because he was guarding Kevin Durant, who I think we would probably agree is the most offensively talented player in the NBA.
Yeah.
So to me, that's more valuable than Rondo.
Gotcha, and that makes sense, and I get that, but I don't know. I just like Rondo's style. Patrick Beverly seems like I don't know. He's like that fly you can't kill. Like, it's ridiculous. But
and that's exactly. And I think that's a really good piece.
So, on that note, we talked about this also today. We talked about the Lakers have 2 of the more efficient players in the NBA or in NBA history, Marshall.
NBA history, as far as PER.
They've got the two of the top 3 most efficient players in NBA history, and LeBron James and Anthony Davis in that order, 2 and 3. But of course, we're not going to talk about who's number 1. That's okay. But
well, and let me say this too, just so that we're clear. I do think the Clippers are a better team, but which team has the better duo? I would say the Lakers. Gotcha. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that LeBron and Anthony Davis, that's possibly the greatest duo ever. I mean, you got Kareem and Magic, which is tough to beat. You got Jordan and Pippen. But as far as straight talented duo, that's really hard to beat.
Right. And it would have been crazy to have Kawhi with the Lakers as a triplet or as a what would you call it? I can't even think right now. What would you call that, Elson, if it was 3 of them?
Let's just stick with 3 of them.
I agree with that take. So speaking of Kawhi Leonard, let's talk about our reaction to what happened. Like, what was your first reaction to that signing and subsequently the pairing of him and Paul George?
Well, I thought it was just very strategic by Kawhi. And I don't really buy the theory that he was being manipulative and he was secretly sabotaging the Lakers the whole time. I think it was, he seriously said, hey, Clippers, sign Paul George and I'll come to you. If you don't sign Paul George and get me another running mate, I'm going to the Lakers. And I think that's actually the truth.
Gotcha.
And they ended up getting Paul George by giving all their picks to Oklahoma City. But that was kind of a boss move. It was smart. It was strategic. And I respect Kawhi for doing what makes him happy, and I don't think it was terribly manipulative. What do you think?
And I agree with that. I went back and I like you said, manipulative. I agree with your take, but I also do believe it was a little manipulative. Simply because why would you not take someone because they're waiting on you? And if you go to the other team, they can't sign the better team. So I think it was a playing of a waiting game, like you said, strategic. Also, I do believe it was a little manipulative. So that's how I would describe it. Though my first reaction to that was, wow, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm not expecting to see Kawhi Leonard signs with the Clippers, So that was my first reaction was, wow. So and Paul George, nobody expected him. When you think of the teams that they were talking about, the Lakers, the Clippers, and the Raptors, you did not expect Paul George to be a part of that. So that was shocking to me. So overall, yes, that was shocking.
Well, and that's the truth, and nobody cares about this, but my honest, real reaction, I love the Thunder, and I love Russell Westbrook and Paul George. They're 2 of my favorite players. And so when I saw the deal, my reaction wasn't even really about Kawhi. I was just really upset that Paul George was leaving Oklahoma City. So that was my first reaction.
Gotcha. And that's understandable because you got to think, he just signed a new deal last year. So
yeah,
it didn't make any sense.
It was shocking. Right.
So the next thing we're going to talk about, those were our reactions to the Clippers signing Paul George or trading for Paul George, signing Kawhi Leonard. Next, we're going to talk about the other 2 guys, the little cowards in Brooklyn.
Whoa. Wow.
I'm just kidding.
You heard it here first, Reoccurring Thoughts.
You heard it here first, Reoccurring Thoughts podcast. But we don't hold back. We're really authentic about who we are and what we talk about. So I wouldn't call them cowards. I'd just say it was bold for what they did. So what did you think about KD and Kyrie teaming up in Brooklyn?
I like the pairing. I think they're both so individually offensively talented that it could be really incredible to watch. Just imagining the idea of Kyrie Irving, crossing over a guard, then the help side comes, and then the other help side doesn't know if Durant's going to shoot a 3 or go dunk, and there's just so many possibilities.
Right.
If you surround them with the right pieces, I think they'll come out of the East next year. This year will be interesting with just Kyrie, with KD coming back from injury, but next year they're my pick to come out of the East. What about you?
That's shocking. Are you talking about when KD comes back, that's your pick to win these? Okay.
Yes.
I was going to say that's a little bold move to say Kyrie is going to lead a team that he couldn't even lead a bunch of rookies that got there before he did. So I don't know. That's
the year that Boston made it with Tatum and Brown at the lead and Terry Rozier, the East was not as hard as it was last year.
Right.
In my opinion, Giannis wasn't as good. He was MVP this year. The Sixers weren't as good. The Raptors didn't have Kawhi. I mean, it's a little. I think it's a little unfair to just say, "Oh, well, they made it without Kyrie. He ruined it the next year." I think there's more context than just that.
And I get that. I get that. But also, again, I got to think, if you beg to get out of Cleveland to be on your own, and then you call Daddy LeBron and tell him, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to leave. But, I mean, I just don't understand his logic,
Well, okay, so he regretted the way he treated LeBron. Would you rather him not call and apologize?
If I'm a man and I beg to get out, why would I call you and tell you I apologize? I mean, I'm going to do my best to win. I'm not going to beg for you to forgive me. I asked to get out, so I appreciate your help, and mentoring me, but I've also got to understand that I'm the one that asked for it. So why should somebody be sympathetic to me?
I don't think he was begging LeBron to forgive him. I think he was just calling and saying, hey, like, I'm sorry. Now that I'm the leader of a team, I understand what you're going through. And I just wanted to say, I understand and I'm sorry. I don't think it was oh, LeBron, please, please forgive me. I'll never be able to sleep if you don't forgive me. I don't think it was like that.
Gotcha. And do you think Jordan would have done that? Michael Jordan would have done that had he asked out of Chicago to get away from Scottie Pippen?
Well, he didn't. I don't think he would leave.
Well, let me ask you this.
In the first place.
Let's switch this around. How about Scottie? Do you think Scottie would have did that with Jordan had he left him?
But see, it takes certain personality traits just to want to leave in that situation. I don't think Scottie would even leave. But I'll do the hypothetical with you. If he left, then yes, I do think if he regretted his decision, he would call Michael and tell him, I'm sorry and I understand.
Gotcha. Okay. I know we like to talk about LeBron and Jordan all the time, so that's why I asked that.
But let me say this too. I think it's the popular narrative to say that Kyrie, I don't know how to put it. He struggled with leadership this year.
He did.
He struggled with his off the court attitude, and I think that that's fair. So I'm not, what you're saying is not ridiculous.
Gotcha.
I'm just wanting to give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt.
I can't. He said the world was flat.
I'm not giving him benefit of the doubt on that topic. So.
But the next thing we've got that was a good session right there. But the next one we've got is underrated signing. Who is your underrated signing?
My underrated signing was Avery Bradley.
Okay.
I talked earlier about how the Clippers have such a great defensive team, and what I was nervous about with the Lakers is they didn't have defense. LeBron, and rightfully so, but he really only tries on offense last year, and now, and then you've got guys like Rajon Rondo who are older, JaVale McGee. I mean, he can block shots, but I wouldn't say he's like a switchable defender on guards. I mean, so who's going to be your guard stopper? If you're in the West, you have to guard Steph Curry. You have to guard Damian Lillard. You have to chase Klay Thompson off screens. So getting Avery Bradley was huge because he can do all of that. He's an excellent guard defender. So I thought that was really underrated. What about you?
I think I agree with that take, and I like that. But I'm gonna go with another Laker, DeMarcus Cousins. It seems like nobody's talking about him, in the media about how he signed with the Lakers. I mean, it's just it's DeMarcus Cousins. No, that's an Olympic player at one point. He's still in his prime. So I like that signing. That was my underrated signing. So.
Yeah, I like that too.
And I didn't understand why nobody's talking about it. That was just a frustrating part for him and probably for every one of his fans. So a local guy out of Alabama. So
yeah.
The next question we've got, sleeper team, and I'm gonna start this one off. And I've got 3 different teams on my list, Elson. You're gonna have to bear with me.
Nice.
Portland would be my first team, I'd say. And the reason I say Portland is they just got Hassan Whiteside. They've also got Nurkic, they've got McCollum, and they've got Lillard. I mean, those are 4 great or good to great players, and that's why I think they're a sleeper that nobody's talking about. Everybody's talking about the Jazz and the Nuggets as a team in the West, but nobody's talking about them. Another team I've got is San Antonio. San Antonio is another team that nobody's talking about. They've got DeJounte Murray. They've got DeMar DeRozan. They've got LaMarcus Aldridge, who was a former Trailblazer. And overall, that's still a pretty good team being coached by a legend and Greg Popovich. And the last team I've got on my list is Dallas with Kristaps and Luka. Those are going to be that's going to be the European version of a super Tony Kukoc. So I'm excited to see what they do as the Mavs. That's another team that I see as a sleeper team. How about you, Elson?
I haven't really thought about those 3 teams as sleeper teams. Those were good calls. The only thing I'm nervous about with them is the Western Conference. You've got the Clippers and the Lakers, and but the Blazers have more playoff experience than either of the A teams as far as a complete unit.
Right.
Lillard and McCollum just were there last year. So
Right.
I guess I should say they have more recent experience. But let's see, I have a few sleeper teams. I wasn't going to put them, the Pacers, because I'm such a big fan of them. They're my favorite team, the Indiana Pacers. But I really do believe they are a sleeper team. Malcolm Brogdon, Oladipo comes back healthy. You got Turner and Sabonis, and they signed T.J. Warren, and they also signed Jeremy Lamb. So that's a really solid 6 players. And if I think it's Drew Holiday's little brother, Aaron Holiday, if he comes on to be a nice backup for Oladipo in the second unit, they're just very, very deep. And so I like their chances in a pretty wide open East. Another team that's a sleeper team to me, and it's just because they have so much reason for motivation, and I think it's the Pelicans.
Gotcha.
The Pelicans already have their lottery pick star, so why would they need to tank for another one? They've already got it.
And that's right.
And they've got guys like Lonzo Ball, Josh Hart, Brandon Ingram, who were traded away from the Lakers like they were just chess pieces for LeBron, and they're going to want to prove that he made the wrong decision. And then David Griffin, he lost his best player named Anthony Davis. He's going to want to prove that it was a great trade. So they're going to be very motivated. They're going to have depth. They signed J.J. Redick. I think the Pelicans have a real chance to make the playoffs.
And I like all 3 of those picks right there, the Pacers, the Blazers, and the Pelicans. I really like those picks. I wasn't thinking about the Pacers, to tell you the truth, and I wasn't thinking about the Pelicans. So that's a different take that I haven't heard. So you heard it here first. Reoccurring Thoughts. The Pelicans are going to make a NBA Finals run.
Absolutely. Not a finals run, but a playoff run.
But the next thing we're going to talk about our guy, Russell Westbrook. One of his biggest fans is right here in this podcast, and that's Mr. Marshall Elson. How about your Westbrook top take? What do you think about Westbrook?
Well, I'll try to keep this under 30 minutes.
It's going to be hard.
But yeah, I know. I mean, I'll just give the quick points. But Westbrook is my favorite player. He's been my favorite player for a really long time. And I love how hard he plays and how he's willing to be a shield for his teammates. It seems like whenever the Thunder loses, the blame always goes to him. And he never shifts the blame. He always just kind of just takes it on. And he's served as a shield for the players he's played with, and I respect that a lot. So I love his energy, his competitive spirit. And so I was sad to see that he's leaving Oklahoma City. But I'm going to follow whichever team he goes to next. So, whichever team trades for him, they get me as well as a fan.
You heard it here first. You heard it here first. Recurring Thoughts. He's a super fan, so take him with him.
Absolutely. And, I'm going to give you some NBA trades that are possible. It's hard to trade Westbrook because next year he's making $38 million, and a lot of teams don't have the cap space. And you've heard a lot about the Miami Heat. I would say they're the most likely destination. You've got different trades with Justice Winslow involved, and they can make it work. And that's probably the most likely destination. Dragic would have to move, but and then you hear about the Pistons. You could trade Reggie Jackson and some other pieces for him. And I would like him on both those teams. I would be fine with it. But here are some other trade machine, trade success possibilities that could happen. It's complicated, but I worked out 4 scenarios, so I'll give them to you now. Westbrook to the Bulls for Otto Porter and Chris Dunn. It would be awesome for Westbrook to be in Chicago with Markkanen, Levine, Kobe White. He could mentor him. And then the Thunder would get Otto Porter, who only has 2 years left on his deal, and then Chris Dunn could be a point guard there who could work with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and he's only has 1 year left too, so it would clear the Thunder's cap space.
Right.
Another scenario I have is Westbrook to the Magic for Markelle Fultz, DJ Augustine, and Evan Fournier, and the Thunder could take a chance on Fultz, and then the Magic could have Westbrook, Aaron Gordon, and Vukovic, which would be a solid shot in the Eastern Conference. So I like that.
Do you think his arm's going to work? Markelle Fultz, how do you lose your shooting? Do you think it's going to work?
Well, I think mainly what the Thunder are trying to do is get under the cap and save money. So I don't think it would really be about, we believe in Markelle Fultz. I think it's just a way to, pay back Westbrook for all the loyalty he's shown them by sending him to a contender. Right. And right now, his best chance to contend is in the East. So I don't know about Markelle Fultz, but at least he was a former number one pick, so at least it's, there's something there.
Anthony Bennett was a former number one pick. Fail.
Yeah, touche. I can't argue that at all. But Markelle Fultz, only 2 years left on his deal, so you could at least get out of it and save some money. He's getting paid $9 million next year, so at least you're saving money there.
Which is true.
And then this is kind of the sneaky favorite trade of mine, and I don't think it's going to happen because I don't think Westbrook wants to be in Cleveland. But if he could get traded for Tristan Thompson, J.R. Smith, and Colin Sexton.
Wow.
Now, it would be good for the Thunder because they have Tristan Thompson to help them at least, hold their own on the court next year.
Right.
And then they could buy out J.R. Smith, where he could sign to a contender.
Shirtless J.R. Smith,
save them money.
Is it shirtless J.R. Smith or regular J.R. Smith?
Both. It's a package deal. And then the Thunder could also get a young player with some potential in Colin Sexton. I mean, that he could end up being a good off guard for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander because they play a different style. Yeah. Sexton's more shoot first, and Alexander is pass first. Try to make the right play type. So I think they could be a more successful backcourt than Garland and Sexton. And then if you look at the Cavs, they would have Russell Westbrook, Darius Garland, who can shoot threes well, and then Kevin Love. All there on the same team in a wide open Eastern Conference with a new coach. That could be intriguing. So I like that one. And then my last trade, and this is more of a joke, but it turned out to be successful on the trade machine, so I'll read it out. The Spurs would have to give up Patty Mills, Marco Bellinelli, Jacob Podol, Brian Forbes, Larry Walker, Deontay Murray, Luka Samanik, Kay Johnson, Derek White, C. Matu, and Ben Moore.
That's the whole team. Oh my gosh.
It works financially, and then the Thunder could just cut them all except for Lonnie Walker and Murray, and then they could just go find new teams. But then the Spurs would be left with Russell Westbrook, DeMar DeRozan, and LaMarcus Aldridge on the same team, and they could go. I know, but they could go sign some vet minimum guys. They could go sign Amari Stoudemire and Monte Ellis.
yeah, I bet that works.
Well, those two guys just worked out for teams the other day. But I'm sure there's some players out there. Like for example, there's some guys in the summer league right now who are not going to get signed, but could potentially play in the NBA one day. Like Jimmer Fredette, he could go in and hit some threes for the Spurs,
right?
And he's available. So I do think there are some guys. But as far as a three-headed monster team, Westbrook, DeRozan, and Aldridge would be pretty intriguing. So those are my kind of four, different scenarios that I found. And where do you think Westbrook will wind up?
I don't think he'll wind up anywhere. I think he's going to stay in
wow.
OKC. Honestly, I don't see them finding anybody that can package something for him. So that's my take on that. I just don't see him getting traded. So you heard it here first.
Wow.
Reoccurring Thoughts. Nobody's ever said that, huh? But no.
Right.
But I really don't think he'll get traded. And I like your take on those scenarios as well because it's a different perspective. But, yeah, Westbrook is a very talented athlete. He's a very talented player, but I just don't know. I just don't see him going anywhere. So, the next and the last topic we'll talk about is we'll just talk about a little bit about the Summer League, and we'll close it out with the Summer League. So far, it's gone really well as far as, I guess with R.J. Barrett. I'm lying. It's been horrible. But so far, the Summer League's been exciting to watch with the young guys, and it's grown in the past few years with you guys like Lonzo and Trae Young. Those guys getting drafted and stuff like that. It's grown, so it's become a very, very sightseeing event. But so far, my observation has been how bad R.J. Barrett has been. And Marshall reminded me the other day, don't be so quick to judge him based on what he's done so far. It is the Summer League. It's only been 2 games. And he said Trae Young was not that great last year, so who knows what may happen. So,
right.
And overall, the Knicks are 0-2 with their actual basketball team playing in the Summer League. So I'm a little scared for the season, but that's okay. But Taco Fall has been talked about a little bit, and people are talking about how did he not get drafted, and that's true. He's 7'6". 7'6". How did he not get drafted? But another guy, Zion, he probably won't play the rest of the Summer League since he bumped knees with somebody. So that's a guy that probably we won't see again. Kobe White has been impressive. I know you're going to talk about this, but
Yes,
Kobe White has
he
been really
has.
impressive to me. And Jared Harper, I watched him the other day and put up 19 points, 5 boards, I believe, or 5 assists and 4 boards. But he played well in that game against the Knicks. So that's a guy that I think is going to be a good signing for the Suns if they keep him. Iggy Brzezinkas for the Knicks, I really like him. I hope we keep him. How about you? What do you think about Summer League so far?
Yeah, so I don't have too many thoughts. I just wanted to highlight 3 players real quick, and one of them was Kobe White. His stats aren't, completely eye-opening and just incredible, but he's looked the part. I mean, he looks really confident out there, and his first play, he dribbled up, went off the screen and threw a nice alley-oop, and then the next possession, he came and hit a mid-range jumper. I just think he's got potential, and he showed it. Carson Edwards for Boston has looked awesome. I mean, there's just no hesitation whatsoever in his jump shot. And he kind of picked up where he left off in the NCAA tournament, so that looked like a good draft pick. And then I have to give credit where it's due. Jackson Hayes for the Pelicans. His first game was last night, and he had, I think, like 28 points and some really nice, impressive blocks and dunks, and he looked like he was 8 feet 5 out there. I mean, it looked like a really smart pick by the Pelicans, and another reason why they turned into my sleeper team after seeing how well he did. So those 3 guys have stood out to me.
And it was funny to see him dunk over that guy last night. You see that?
Yes. Yeah, his knee was in that guy's face.
That was awesome. Looked like Blake Griffin reincarnated. But anyway.
Yeah, I didn't want to talk too much about that dunk because I have been on the other end of it.
No way.
Yeah, so I felt the sympathy for the guy. But in my case, the ref gave me a sympathy charge.
Oh, okay.
And so at least we went the other way. But maybe that makes it more embarrassing.
No.
But yeah.
So this was Reoccurring Thoughts, episode number 16. We did a recap of NBA free agency last week and just the events going on around the NBA so far. So, Marshall, again, thank you for coming on the show. You might as well be a co-host at this point, but thank you.
Hey, I don't know any other sport but basketball, but maybe a little bit of football. But I appreciate you having me on, man, and we'll do it again soon. It should be a really fun NBA season. I look forward to more of your SEC previews. Yeah. I can't wait to see the Alabama and the Auburn episode here soon.
I've been really slacking on those, so I got you. I'll put those out very soon. So thank you again for joining the show. Thank you for giving us your take on everything. And, of course, we've got to close it out. Your favorite podcast has got to close it out with the quote of the day, sponsored by, unfortunately, no one. But the quote of the day comes from Lee Iacocca. And he says, my father always used to say that when you die, if you've got 5 real friends, that you've had a great life. Again, that's from Lee Iacocca. My father always used to say that when you die, if you've got 5 real friends, then you've had a great life. And I agree with that. If you don't have 5 people that you can call and say, hey, I'm going through something or I need help with something, then you need some people in your life there in those spots. You need them. So I thank Marshall for being one of those guys for me. Again, you need friends. Let them take care of you, and you take care of them. That's how the world goes, you know. So, thank you again, Marshall, for coming on. Look out for episode number 17 on the way. And thank you for listening. Remember, subscribe to the podcast. Listen to every word we say because we have a different perspective. So, again, thank you. Have a great rest of your day. This has been Reoccurring Thoughts. I'm your host, Keegan Koger, with my good friend, Marshall Elson. Peace.